YouTubers, this video between Coach Dalton and I is on the topic of NEAT, and that's an acronym for Non-Exercise Activity Thermogenesis. Quite wordy, but a very simple concept to understand. We'll explain what it is, how it fits in your TDEE, which is an acronym for Total Daily Energy Expenditure, and how we can keep an eye on it to keep our fat loss goals from stalling. Okay, happy learning.
Hey guys, Coach Dalton here from Flex Success. Today I'm joined with Coach Lizzie and we are going to discuss some NEAT, something really neat, a really cool topic. We're going to talk about non-exercise activity thermogenesis and what that means. It sounds scary, super complicated, but really it's not, something really, really simple. So we're going to talk about a couple of things in a quick overbranching theme of what's going on. We want to talk about some calorie balance, understanding what that means for a deficit, a surplus, where that falls in line with total daily energy expenditure, or our TDEE, as well as from that overarching theme of TDEE, where NEAT fits into that and how we can manipulate that. And we'll quickly discuss on some genetic and some environmental factors.
Mm-hmm.
So,
lots of acronyms there, Dalton.
What's that?
Lots of acronyms there.
So many. Let's delve into them. First, we'll talk about calorie balance. Lizzie, calorie balance, when we talk about it, we're simply talking about calories in, calories out. Yeah, we're talking about 2,000 calories for someone being their intake that they're having at the time, but they could be expended anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500, and that has massive influences on what's going on. So if that's not balanced, we're not going to get a deficit or a surplus, are we?
Yeah, exactly. There's when you talk about TDE, like you said, total daily energy expenditure, there's a few things that make up TDE. So if we need to understand what our TDEE is, if we want to gain weight, even maintain weight or lose weight, because we need to eat to that number. So the things that make up TDEE, NEAT is one of them, like you explained, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. We've also got the thermic effect of food, TEF, another acronym, our BMR, basal metabolic rate, and our formal exercise that we do. So we can think of our energy expenditure or our calorie expenditure like a pie chart. So NEAT makes up a portion of that, NEAT being the exercise that we do when we're not exercising. The thermic effect of food makes up another portion of that, exercise another portion, BMR quite a large portion of that as well. So if you're an athlete, the exercise that we do would make up a larger portion of that pie chart versus someone who just walks their dog once a day, might go to the gym, 2 or 3 times a week. So starting at TDEE, let's say I can eat 2,300 calories a day to maintain weight. If I want to lose weight, my goal would be to eat in a deficit of that. So I would want to take out, let's say, 500 calories a day. Now, the reason that NEAT is so important, Dalton can attest to this as well. We see it in all of our clients that people have a certain amount of calories that they expend through NEAT. So maybe they'll, walk around the grocery store, they'll fidget, they'll, walk their dog, vacuum their house, aggressively shampoo their hair, whatever it is. And when we start to take calories out, NEAT starts to drop down. Now, there are a few reasons for this, but essentially you're exhausted. When you've got less energy coming in, you want to expend less as a survival mechanism, really, to avoid starving to death eventually. So our body just makes us exhausted, along with other adaptations as well. So we find NEAT is one thing that we really need to keep an eye on when we're in a deficit. Did you want to go through why, Dalton?
Yeah, I think it's a really cool, actually something really cool, and most people wouldn't consider it. Now, when I have these conversations with people, when I used to work in the gym, no one would consider this as something that no one was doing. And it really came about, would have been about 7-8 years ago when the big measurement of activity trackers, once they started hitting the market, everyone started delving into it there, and we realized how much of a play it had. So we can, our NEAT, or our non-exercise activity thermogenesis, it can be anything that we're doing outside of this formal activity. So if you have a life that involves walking to the bus stop, sitting on a bus, sitting at work for 8 hours, maybe having a lunch where you walk to your lunch place, generally may go to the gym over night time. You can rack 5,000 steps if you're, pretty good. And that shows how much daily activity that you're doing throughout the day. Okay. with that, if you're, so when you track that, what you can see is obviously a total amount of activity done over time. You can track that day in, day out. And what happens is, from tracking that, you can increase it slowly over time and notice a calorie drop happening without you having to change any calories. Now, your body is all of a sudden expending all this energy without actually having to drop any calories, without having to change any exercise. And the reason being, it's a low cost in energy for the body. It's something that is nearly completely fatty acid oxidizing, meaning that you're burning just fat most of these times when you're doing these activities. And you can maintain the calories that you're eating as well as the activity. So by increasing or tracking your NEAT that you do to a point that has an impact or helps sustain weight loss without you having to drop calories, it leads to a longer and more sustainable diet. It also allows you to take advantage of some of the situations or your lifestyle factors that you have, improve them to improve some of your health markers, as well as drop some body fat percentage. I see it being super important when I have people going from doing 5,000 steps a day to 10,000 steps a day. That immediate increase, that 200%, that shows, can bump most people up from a 300 calorie deficit to a 500 calorie deficit in a day without having to take food, which can be a massive thing. If you're small, if you're largely overweight, if you don't have a lot of activity or time for activity, 200 calories out of nowhere from walking a little bit more is a massive plus.
Yeah, good point. I actually had a discussion with a friend the other day who was telling our overweight hairdresser that she doesn't need to change her diet at all. All she needs to do is increase her activity. I certainly don't agree with that for reasons that you just stated. Let's say that she's overeating by 800 calories a day. She then increases her NEAT, or she does 10,000 steps. She won't burn as many as 800 calories. She'll still continue to gain weight, maybe not as fast of a rate as what she would if she didn't exercise at all, or didn't increase her steps. But like you said, it's all a balance. So you can keep food the same, increase expenditure, therefore your calorie balance is moved in a way that we need it to be moved to get the result that we want. So it really is just another tool in our collection of tools that we can use. I personally would prefer to do a bit of both, remove calories a little so I don't have to exercise too much, but not keep food the same and have to exercise a lot. So it really comes down to personal preference, or even how much time you have, your injuries, even what sort of recovery you need from your training too.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different. I'm more of a proponent of getting someone to eat the most amount of food possible and do the most amount of activity that they can get away with, obviously, and keep food as high and try and control that and maintain that from there.
Yeah.
So maybe what you're doing, maybe a little bit differently. So I push it to there first, increase to find where their breaking point is of going, I can't maintain the 10,000, 12,000 steps or whatever anymore. Yep. It's like, all right, cool, we have that baseline target now. Now we'll drop food and slowly keep that way. I find if I try and take it just from activity and just from food, people downregulate in other ways. They get lazier inside like gym sessions, or they don't push intensity like that. So I find having more food a bigger motivator, generally from myself and my clients.
Yeah, for sure. If we're talking about athletes and performance optimization, I certainly agree with you. For people who pay close attention to their training, like all our athletes do, we can really track their progress over time as well, and push them to make sure that they are still progressing. But I mean, we can talk about the optimal plan, which lots of athletes are certainly willing to do, and I think that's a really great point. But for some people, the plan they can stick to is the best one.
Definitely. You find it, meet them where they're willing to be met at. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So I was just going to say, one point that you and me had a debate over quite a while ago was the genetic or environmental component to NEAT. And I think we kind of went head to head and realized in the end we were talking about the same thing. So did you want to give a brief summary about that debate?
Sure. So for those that don't know, NEAT can be expressed as a genetic factor. You may have particular genes in your DNA that encourage you to be more more fat burning through non-exercise. So you may fidget more, you may decide to walk around more, you may get the urge to go to the bathroom more often. So all those factors have you at a higher NEAT than someone that has the gene expression to be more energy preserving, not move around, someone that's essentially more utilizing of their glucose, the carbohydrates that come inside their diet, as well as the fats. They store them more efficiently. So there's those two different expressions which have, I think, a very, very big influence on people's traits. Obviously, their genetic expression. So you have no control over them. So that's where the whole adage of people who can eat what they want and never seem to gain any weight kind of comes from. There's those components. But the flip of that was the environmental factors, the social, cultural stuff that we get exposed to, whether you work in a labor-intensive job, whether you elect to go to the bathroom more often throughout the day just to get some more movement around, whether you don't like sitting in front of a screen so you get up and stretch, whether you get up off the bus a stop earlier and walk, some steps home just so that you get out and enjoy the fresh air more, or you may live further from a bus stop that you just have to walk to. All of those being environmental considerations. So I think very much so you kind of must have the genetic predisposition to do some activity, but it doesn't overcompensate what you're doing in a normal diet to the point that you need to be thinking about this stuff formally to then start making choices or change your environment to support what you're doing in your diet as well. So our debate, though it was coming from two different aspects, I think very much still met in the middle, and there was a lot of intertwining parts.
Yeah, and we also discussed as well whether it's still considered NEAT if we're actively trying to increase our steps or not, because as we mentioned, it's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So if we're trying to increase our expenditure by exercising more, walking, getting your steps up being considered exercise, we said that it's not really, well, we debated whether it's considered NEAT or not, because really we're increasing our exercise activity. But either way, I don't think it really matters what the answer is, or if the answer sits in a gray area. We're still affecting our calorie balance in a way that we need it to. One point to make, though, is some people might say, oh, I'm not at my goals because I'm genetically predispositioned to X, Y, and Z, and my friend Sally over here eats whatever she wants and she's really thin. There may be some influencing factors to your body weight, like you mentioned, but most people, I think it's fair to say, do not track their calorie consumption. So it's really hard to say if that is the case unless you accurately and consistently track your calorie intake, and even better, your macronutrient intake, the things that make up your calories. And then you can say for sure, really. So I just don't think those claims can be made that lots of people make. Like, it's my genetics. My mum's also overweight. Maybe your mum also overconsumes in calories.
Yeah, definitely. I think most people want to find something that's to blame other than taking ownership for the fact that they actually don't have any idea why they're overweight because they've never measured anything to then point out or work on changing. I think it's very quick and easy to say that it's hard for them to lose weight because someone else is very good at keeping thin. I think that makes it a scapegoat for them not trying or identifying as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the topic of calorie balance too, maybe Sally does eat more than you in calories, not food volume, and is thinner than you, but we need to look at the calorie balance. Maybe she does far more activity and cancels out the surplus of calories that she's eating and actually puts her into a deficit.
Definitely. It's a massive influence as well. Whether or not people are actually exercising or outperforming their calorie intake is, we don't know what's going on in someone's life. They might be getting up at 6 a.m. to walk an hour and they just don't tell you about it.
Yeah.
They're doing what they can to obviously maintain a good and healthy body fat percentage.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Dalton, but I know actually some competitors who like to, bodybuilding competitors that is, that likes to claim online that, oh, I ate this many calories and I did no cardio up until 2 weeks out and blah, blah, blah. And I see them at the gym slogging it out on the treadmill 12 weeks out. It's like, I don't know, some badge of honor that they somehow got leaner and beat the system. And we always find with our clients that when you think someone's beating the system, like, oh, why aren't they losing weight? You find out, oh, I saw on their Instagram, they actually ate X, Y, and Z and they didn't put that down in their diary. And
misrepresentation one of the biggest reasons why like people don't get the results that they want, whether it's through ignorance or sheer thought. It's yeah, it's definitely. I don't get the whole no cardio thing. I ask people about it all the time when I see someone say, "Oh, they've never done any cardio for this fat loss," and I prefer to do a little bit of cardio, live a little bit longer, and eat some more food. To be honest. So.
Yeah. Whatever works for them. I just don't see the point in lying. Who are you lying to? For what purpose?
The interwebs.
Yeah, the interwebs. But I guess, like we're people who have high standards for ourselves and our coaching, working in an environment where other coaches don't so much, it really helps us understand or even concrete what our morals are, like, honesty with our clients, with ourselves, and not selling some sort of BS product. We sell education, essentially, is what we sell. We sell knowledge and teaching people the ropes. And it's not very sexy because we need to learn about NEAT. We need to learn about calories. We need to track our macros. Unfortunately, it's not, hey, buy this overpriced shake and that's all you need. Yeah. So I guess understanding the tools you need is a process at first, but one that certainly pays off.
Definitely. And it's something that sticks with you for a long time. Once you've got these behaviors, once you've ingrained something like what we do over 12 weeks, it's something that you're going to do for life, especially if it's been a positive experience. It's something you're going to do for life. Whether you actively work on it or not is a different story, but you'll consciously think about moving more often and stuff like that because of the lessons that we go through. And you'll consciously think about, ways that you may be influenced from calories in or calories out. So.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, your isogenics tub can run out quickly, but the knowledge that you gain from actually putting some investment into education, that can't be taken away ever. Yeah. Yeah. Human capital. How do you track your expenditure, Dalton?
I do it through a couple of ways. If it's something more formal like steps, I have just an Apple Watch that I track that on. They also have a really cool task activity bar that you can track how often you stand up. And it gives you little like hourly indications of whatever it is. And you can set those on there, as well as an activity ring to show your total movement throughout the day.
Yep.
But then when it's less formal stuff, I have like a stationary bike at home that has a platform that I can just sit a laptop on it, but there's no data on it. So it's literally just spinning my legs for time. And that's another way that I track it as well. It gets cold outside or rainy and I can't do the same amount of steps. I just do something equivalent on the bike.
Yeah, that's awesome. Having an alternative when it is rainy outside is, super cool for sure.
So way to Netflix at uni on the treadmill and like do all my courses and stuff. I'll never leave the treadmill.
You know what? I have the attention span of a toddler. So I personally need to, like when I was at uni, to be able to retain information, I needed to doodle and draw, fidget with my nails or whatever. And I could actually listen. Whereas if I just like sat there, like I just would lose concentration. So, and it's good for weight loss too. So I personally have a daily average step target of 10,000. But if I'm low one day, let's say 8,000, I'll do 12 the next. And it just means an extra block or two with my dog when I go for a walk. And sometimes as well, it does help. People say it's time consuming. Of course, it takes time to expend those calories, but you can multitask like you do on the bike, or even just taking a 10-minute break or 20-minute break here and there can help me be more productive with my work. So I really get more done, even though I'm spending less time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, Dee. Well, until next time, sayonara.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Lizzie. See you guys.
And that's a wrap for today's video. I hope you found it useful. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the description to see how you can find us on Facebook and Instagram, and also keep up with other cool stuff we've got going on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.